Hi, welcome back. On this episode, we're going to seal off and prime and paint the bottom and the top of the floor in the Pontiac. I've recently redid the whole floor, right from the firewall, right back to the back seat, transmission tunnel, and floor pans. Episode 37 had me using the English wheel making the transmission tunnel. If that interests you, you want to see how I did it? Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button, and check me out on Instagram at Clargo Garage. Here we go. Alright, I got the floor all prepped. I sanded it with 100 grit sandpaper, and then I vacuumed it out, and then I wiped it down with a wash and wipe. So it should be ready for a primer. So if you remember episode 37 when I used the English wheel to make that transmission tunnel, this is that transmission tunnel that I had made. So before I cut the old floor out, I used what was left as a template for the transmission tunnel and for the rest of the floor too, to try to get it as close to factory as possible. And then I used the English wheel using the rubber band on the top wheel so I could get it the way I wanted it, because if you don't use that rubber band, it will arc it this way and this way. And I wanted it to stay flat and then and just roll on the sides and roll up. So it turned out pretty well. This crosser brace, that's original. I left that in the whole time, even when I had the floor cut out. And then once I had the transmission tunnel made, I had cut the floor out, and then I got the transmission tunnel back in, and this ensured that I kept everything located center, and it also made sure that the body didn't flex at all. And then I got the floor pans in, and I used the bead roller and a little bit of plunging hammer and a little bit of English wheel to get the shapes that I wanted. And then once I got the all the floor back in, there's a couple bad spots on here that I cut out and reshaped. And then I grinded the wells. On the bottom I ground them so they were non-visible, and on the top I ground them so there's no sharp edges. I figure there's a carpet going on top, so I didn't worry about getting it perfect. But once I was all done grinding top and bottom, I put my light underneath, and then I turned the lights out in the garage, and I looked for any pinholes that I might have missed, and then I re-welded those spots and re-ground them down just to make sure that it's watertight. You don't want any water coming back in. Originally, what I think took out this floor, because this car's always been undercoated, so underneath it looked really good, but the windshield had a bit of a leak, and it has that old shaggy type of carpet in here. So when the water leaked in, it leached up the carpet, which ended up rotting out the transmission tunnel and just everything. So that's what got us into having to replace the whole floor right from the back seat right to the firewall. So the primer that we're going to use, I already did the bottom. So this is my paintbrush from yesterday. So I put it in a bag so I could just reuse it and have to cleaning it or anything. And then I'm using this Dom 16. It's pretty good if there's any rust, like there's a little bit of pitting on this piece here, and this will seal it up and prevent it from continuing to rust. It's a good sealer, and it's a really good primer. It's good for bare metal too. So this is a new container. This little guy was about $72 Canadian, but it's pretty good stuff, so it's worth the money. And this is the container that I was using yesterday. I still got a little bit left in it. But if you don't put a bag when you put the lid back on, you'll never get that lid off without destroying the can. So make sure you put a bag on here if you're not done with the whole can. Otherwise, you'll never be able to get the lid off, and it'll be a bit of a disaster. So I'm going to get my respirator on. This stuff doesn't really have much of a smell, so you could probably do without a respirator, but it's better to have a respirator on. And I'm going to start from the transmission tunnel, and I'm going to work my way in, or I guess out. I'm going to start from the transmission tunnel, and I'm going to work my way out. This way, if I end up leaning or touching anything, I'm not getting covered in paint. So I should put gloves on too, but I ran out of gloves, so I'm just going to be careful to try to do my best to keep it off my skin. And we're going to get started. And as I go, I like to do the seam and then cover the panel. This way I can make sure I get my brush in good. So if there's any little tiny pinholes that I did miss, this will seep in and it will seal it really good. And I'll have no water issues of anything coming through pinholes and up and into the vehicle. Alright, I got 2 coats of primer on yesterday evening, and then I let it sit overnight, and now it's early this morning, and I'm going to start spraying on the paint. I'm just going to use a rattle can, but it's nice and hard, it looks good. So I'm just going to use some of this. It's not a exact match to what's here, but it's close enough for there's going to be carpet on top anyways. But at least when you peel it back a little bit, it'll look almost like it's still factory. So I'm going to kind of start up here and down here, and then work my way out, and then go to the other side. I'm going to turn my exhaust fan on so I can pull some of the fumes out and the overspray out a little bit. And I'm going to wear my respirator. So I'm going to get that going, and then we'll start spraying. Then a little tip, when you're done spraying, turn your can upside down and then spray until it comes out clear. Like that, and then it'll clear your nozzle. So we're going to let that set up and dry a bit, and then we'll end up doing a second coat, and then we'll be done with the floor for now. Alright. We have the bottom of the floor all ready for primer and then paint. There's a close-up of the can that I'm using. So we'll go for one last walk underneath here before we start covering it up. So the whole floor is all handmade by me. So I'd got the bead roller just before I started this job, and the punishing hammer and the English wheel. So a little bit was practicing and getting used to using those new tools. So some things could have turned out slightly better, but overall I say it turned out pretty nice. So we'll go for a little walk underneath and we'll look it all over. So here is starting at the back passenger side. So right here would be where the your feet would go, running all the way along. The floor has a funny hump here for the transmission support. The brackets with the red tape on them, those are for the heat shield, and that will be going in once we get the floor painted and primed. And then we come all the way up and in, and up in there. It's kind of hard to see, but we had way up the firewall too. And then this is the driver's side. We went up the firewall here too. and then all the way down. It turned out pretty good. Tried to keep it looking factory, so I tried to duplicate what was already there. So it was not a flat floor in this car. And all the way back. And that's the back by the behind the driver's seat. Here's the transmission tunnel, and that was all handmade on the English wheel as well. And I have a video of that. And up above the transmission, that's all new as well. But I'm not dropping the transmission out, so I painted that before I put it in, just to protect it. I'm sure sometime in the future I'll end up taking the transmission down, but until then, that will it'll be fine. So it turned out pretty nice. We got our seat belts. That's what goes into there. These guys here are from the old factory floor. That's for the drive shaft safety loop. So it should be pretty good. This is the heat shield that will be going above the cap where those 4 studs were coming down. So I just need to sand this and paint and prime this as well. I basically copied the shape of the old one that was there. I just did different bead rolls on it just to kind of practice and do something a little bit different. Alright, so I'm going to start brushing the primer on. I'm going to have my respirator on. I have my hair covered up too, because I don't want to get that primer in the hair, so it'll take forever to come out. I might end up having to cut my hair. So I don't want to do that till the spring, when it starts getting nice out again. So I'm just going to start around the edges, and I'll start working my way around. Alright, I got the bottom of the floor, 2 coats of primer on it, and 2 coats of paint. I just used a rattle can for the paint. And then I'm going to, in a later date, once I'm all done, all the other body work and everything, I'll undercoat underneath, and it'll be protected very well. I have the transmission mount out right now as well. I did that for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 was so I could get up and around the transmission a little bit easier in a few spots. And then reason number 2 was I wanted to repaint the transmission mount since I was into everything else. So we'll go for a quick walk underneath here, and then we'll go and look at the transmission mount and the heat shield. So the floor turned out pretty decent. I got a couple small little runs, but I'm not too worried about it just because of where it is. No one's ever really going to see it, other than whoever watches this video, and if it's ever at a garage getting a front end alignment or something, or mechanical. It's kind of hard to see up in there, but yeah, it turned out pretty nice. And I still need to do work from here back, so we didn't paint or anything. Like, I need to make a new heat shield for above the muffler and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the transmission mount. So this would be the bottom. This goes on the frame here and here, and that's where the transmission stud mounts onto. So that's looking pretty good now too, so I'm ready to start throwing it back together. And there's the heat shield. I got the one side primed and painted. We still have to do the other side, but it's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to paint the hardware for the drive shaft safety loop and everything. So I just put it on some cardboard so it's easier for me to brush and spray, so I can kind of hold it up. It's not just all laying flat. so it shouldn't be too bad. Alright, that's where I'm going to end this video. I got 2 coats of paint on the floor and 2 coats of primer. It's ready for interior to start going in this section and get the brake and gas pedal back in and the emergency brake and that kind of stuff. I still have some work to do underneath the back seat, so I'm probably going to hold off on getting all the interior in until I'm done the metal work and welding back there. Other things that I'm going to do to this car is I need to do the rocker panels, and I have some work inside the 2 front door jambs. I'm hoping to get that done before summer, but I think that's going to be a bit of a long shot, but we're going to try our best. But I'm hoping by next summer, not this summer coming up, so summer of 2024, I'm hoping to have everything done on here that I want to get done and do a complete paint job on the outside as well. So this was a big hurdle for me. So now that I'm getting this done, I have the door jambs are going to be a bit of a pain, but they'll be doable pretty easily. They'll just be a little bit tedious. Rocker panels won't be too bad. I'm going to bend up my own rocker panels. And then I have a little bit of work to do on the rear quarter panels, and I still have the back half of the rear wheel wells I have to do a little bit of work on. And I haven't checked the trunk over that well. At a quick glance, it looked not too bad, but I'm sure I'll find some stuff in there. I'm going to try to record more of how I'm making my panels and that kind of stuff, because this was a bit of a learning curve. So I had some new tools that I've never had before, and I was learning how they work and everything before I recorded a video on them. Other than the transmission tunnel, I recorded that, but all these other panels and doing the bead rolling and that, I'm still fine-tuning to get them so they lay perfectly flat. I still get a little bit of oil can sometimes. I'm just trying to fine-tune myself so I can put a good quality video out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button, and check me out on Instagram at Clargo Garage. Have a great night.